short video showing how we can install either Miniconda or Anaconda on Windows. And we're going to start with Miniconda. And if you go to the web page, you should be on the page with the links to the installer. So we're going to click on the Windows 64-bit Python 3.8. We should get an executable, which we can then click on. So open the file, you should get an installer, and click next. I agree, of course I read this before. So just next and keep the default options, and it's going to install a bare bones version of the Conda Python, and we're going to see later on what the other option is, which is Anaconda. Alright, seems to have completed. We don't need to see these here. We know what we're doing. So, after this installation is done, you should have a new menu item called Anaconda 3. For this one, you can either choose the PowerShell prompt or the prompt, depending on your preferences. But the main thing to do here is when we get the prompt, you'll see that we have the base environment on by default. And the command we're going to be using is called conda. So if we just enter that without any other input, we should get some help on the command itself. So the first thing we want to do is we want to install the Jupyter notebooks in our base environment. And that we can just do with conda install and then the name of the package, in this case Jupyter. The other thing you can do on the command line is you can actually search for packages. So there's a lot of different keywords. I do encourage you to check them out. But for now, let's just do conda install Jupyter. And what conda is going to do is going to look for the package named Jupyter in predefined repositories. And when it finds one that matches the name, it's going to install that package along with dependencies. So it's going to ask us, there's a bunch of dependencies here. It's pretty safe just to say yes. So it's going to install a number of packages, which again should give us access to Jupyter. So it's downloaded all the packages and then executing the transaction, which means the installation. And as soon as that's done, we'll see how we can launch a Jupyter notebook. There we go. So now we actually have the Jupyter command already installed. So let's see if it actually ended up in the Anaconda menu, and it did. So we have the Jupyter notebook here that we can click on and get a notebook. But another way we can run this is again through the command line. So we can actually say Jupyter notebook. Now this will start us off at the specific directory that you have, And what it will do is it will open up the browser and it will ask us what browser to use. I didn't install anything else, so I have Microsoft Edge here. And here we go. We've got the Jupyter notebook, and we can create a new one, and we should have a Python 3 as the default. We can also open up a terminal, a folder here, or a text file. But if we click on Python 3, we'll get a notebook that we can use to run code. As you can see, the kernel is starting and the kernel's ready. So let's close this, and then we're gonna quit from the notebook server, and that's all there is to it. And we'll see later on in the class how we can install packages with Conda. Now, one thing that you might want to do differently, if you don't mind downloading about 400 megs instead of 57 megs here, and this should give you the Anaconda version, the individual edition, should give you a lot more packages by default. Some people don't like the bloat, but some people also don't like to have to download a bunch of stuff, so they want a batteries included solution. So we're going to do that. We're going to try to download. Again, we can pick, depending on our operating system, we'll pick the 64-bit graphical installer. So the download is starting, and we're gonna, unfortunately I cannot pause the recording, so we'll just have to wait in silence here, or almost silence. Alright, so the file is downloaded. We're gonna wait for it to become available to open, and we're gonna do that. So we should get another installer like before with the mini Conda version, but this time it should take a little bit longer to install everything. So again, we're gonna go agree. It's using now a different directory. The previous one was mini Conda 3, but now it's Anaconda. Now, you still want to do register Anaconda 3 as my default Python. You're going to see a warning here because what we've done before is we already installed Miniconda. But if you decide to go the Anaconda way, then you won't see this warning. But they're the same version of Python, so it really doesn't matter much. So we're getting the installation now. As you can see, there's a lot more things being installed. And if you can catch some of the names pretty quickly, you'll see that some of those packages were installed when we manually called the conda install Jupyter command. It's taken a little while to actually install it since I'm running Windows on a virtual machine here. And again, it's really a matter of preference of which version you want to install. They're pretty much doing the same thing. You can see setting up the base environment as before, and almost there. Close this in the meantime, and this. And see if some of the things showed up at least in the menu here. Not yet. So. As this is setting up the base environment, one of the things we're going to see when we open up the Anaconda Navigator is we're going to see that we have options directly in the user interface to change the environment, create a new one, and also we're going to talk about the concept of channels. When we called conda install Jupyter, we were using the main channel, and by channel I mean it's a specific set of packages that are available that are relatively mature. However, there are other packages that people have built. It's an open source project, so they have contributed a lot of these, but they don't go into the main channel of Conda. Rather, they go into secondary channels, and the most popular one is called Conda Forge. And again, we're going to talk about that during class. But let's check out what we have here. Okay, we have a bunch of new things in our menu. The main thing we want to look at is the Anaconda Navigator. If you click on that, again, as you see under the hood, it's calling something in the terminal. But instead of us doing that manually, it sort of integrates everything together. Alright, and you should end up with a page like this. So as I said, this is the channel, not the channel, sorry, the environment. This is the base, the root environment. You also see that we have the mini Conda 3 environment available, which is what we created before. And if we just scroll down, again, virtual machine, so it's slow. Well, anyway, if you scroll down, you'll see a number of different options. You'll see the ability to run, for example, R notebooks, and not just notebooks, but there's something else that I want to show you if it's going to let me do that. Jupyter Lab, which is it's based on Jupyter notebooks, but it provides a lot more capabilities. And there's a number of other tools again that are included that have to do with data science in general, machine learning, and so forth. And for example, you see IBM Watson, Studio, Datalore. There's some support for integrated development environments like Spider or PyCharm, and we're going to talk about those tomorrow. All right, and with this, hopefully that helps you if you haven't already set up Python in Windows. I'll be posting another video with kind of doing the same thing for a Mac and maybe Linux. We'll see depending on time. All right, I'll see you tomorrow.